So good morning, everyone. My name is Laura, and I would like to welcome you to the last day of GCCM Berlin 2020. And I would like to welcome you to today's physical panel and CC Webinar.Live session on the topic of digital transformation. We would like to thank Birgit for moderating this panel and all panelists for joining and sharing the knowledge. So I will hand over to Birgit and you can start. Thank you, Birgit.
Thank you, Laura. And yeah, very warm welcome everybody online and right here. I think we are getting now quite familiar with this hybrid format. So it seems to be quite normal to have someone here, someone there. Julia and Thomas are joining from Munich, I think, both of them. And yeah, very welcome. We are talking about business models this morning. And I think we start with a short introduction of the panelists. And so probably we start with the one, right here. So Sander, would you start?
Sure, I'll start. Sander Barends, good morning, everyone. Thanks for joining today's session. I'm the Chief Commercial of Experio. We provide managed services, internet access, software-defined, and cloud optimization to multinational corporations.
Good morning, nice to be here. My name is Artur Ostrovsky. I'm Chief Commercial Officer for Enexo. Enexo is a software and IT provider focused on delivering career solutions to wholesale industry, helping with automation of quoting and career-to-career interactions on top of Salesforce platform.
And Thomas?
I will give it to Julia first, ladies first.
Oh, Julia will get the question, so that's why.
Okay, if you want. So I think I'm with Twilio Thomas Böhler. I'm running solutions engineering teams in parts of Europe. For those who don't know Twilio, we're making communications a software thing. Thank you.
Okay. Yeah, and then last but not least, Julia, please.
Hello, my name is Julia Lehmann. I'm the founder of Onfor, a company that develops artificial intelligence and cognitive solutions. I'm also lecturer for digital marketing at the University of Nürtingen in Germany.
And when we talk about business models today, you're inventing them, you're inventing digital business models and using AI and cognitive solutions. So would you just start and tell us about inventing these business models and your recent projects?
Well, first of all, I think there we are experiencing a huge shift in thinking because of the pandemic. I mean, the whole world is facing this new challenge. It's not just influencing our own individual behavior, but at a higher level, everything from corporate decisions to the economy or our whole society. A lot of industries are clearly struggling at the moment, such as the hotel and restaurant trade or events. I mean, this is an international event and many of the participants couldn't fly in because of travel restrictions. But we are not just talking about people business. Most industries are affected in some way. Here in Germany, our automotive industry has suffered a lot and sales and heavy engineering have taken a big hit too. But I always try to stay optimistic, and if there's anything positive about this situation, we can say that it has sped up digitalization more than any political dialogue ever could. So the first month of shutdown, there were news stories about officials of the German government who weren't able to work from home. They didn't have a portable device to work with, and even in big corporations, many employees were not prepared to work remotely because of access code or security issues. The employees didn't even have a VPN set up. But now, a couple of months later, most people have found a way to work from home and become more digital. And business travel has ground to a halt, and we have moved critical client meetings or events like today to Zoom, something that seemed impossible in the past. So it looks like the crisis has helped us become more flexible and open to new technologies. Companies are still looking for services that help them save costs, improve processes, or increase efficiency. And in that aspect, we are lucky to be a technical service provider. Artificial intelligence services and blockchain development are still very much needed and requested. And even governmental institutions that always seem to be behind in technologies are starting to become more innovative and testing And I'm proud to have been allowed to participate in a project where millions of social media comments were analyzed in order to understand citizens' concerns about the COVID-19 situation. This type of data insight helps decision makers act faster and better in every industry. So I can see a growing interest in big data solutions, but also projects and ethics and social impact. Companies that want to stay competitive have to become more people-centric and put the customer at the center of their data strategy, especially in telecommunications where customer service is key. So if companies want to prepare for the digital age, I recommend to focus on low-hanging fruits, start with some simple prototypes, test them, and implement them as soon as they add value to your business. And an easy business opportunity for every telco or wholesale messaging company are chatbot solutions. Not just because the return of investment for chatbots and customer care is extremely high. In similar projects, we have been able to save 68% of service costs, but because they can enhance business messaging with latest technologies and provide a more innovative product offering. So I'm constantly on the lookout for new messaging partners to create future-proof joint products.
Okay, thank you, Julia. And Thomas, I learned that you recently conducted a report on exactly what Julia just mentioned. Would you just share that report that Julia did?
It's a longer one, so I think we can send out a document later on. So what we did in the meantime is we have run a study on the impact of COVID-19 on the digitalization. So we have found out that in a couple of cases, the projects which were designed for maybe 6 years have been condensed down to 3 months. So I think we certainly can say that COVID-19 was the digital accelerant of the decade, which means that, of course, by the massive changes COVID-19 and the lockdowns have created, people were forced to do a lot of things. So I think we see this every day. Of course, we help companies to do this, since we, of course, believe in cloud platforms as a service, which means that people can start easily, scale it, and of course, they can build their own things. And of course, they can completely focus on how to map their customer journey technology-wise in order to make sure that they create something like an unbreakable customer relationship. So I think that's certainly the most important thing. Even if you, for instance, look especially at Germany, I think in some cases we've been the laggards on some things, especially when it comes to digitalization. It was possible, even companies where you might think that they're very conservative, so insurances, banks, I think they had to go completely virtual, and I think it worked out. Of course, you need to have the right technology underneath in order to map this, but of course not for the sake of technology, just of course to create the best user experience.
Thank you. And yeah, what about business models and all? I mean, we're talking about business models. Everybody tries to invent some disruptive things, and now we have kind of hype in inventing them. Mm-hmm. How much technology knowledge do we need to do this? So, do marketing people invent business models? Do technical people do that, or how do you do that with very technical new things? So how do they understand
this is where it all starts to come together now, right? It's no longer just the business and sales or just the IT department. You see that all of these departments come together, and if I look at a company like Experio, we are exactly that. And we're trying to put together the business and IT, and Arthur knows that. We're going through a project together where clearly I'm on the commercial side, but together with the IT partner, this is kind of together we drive these projects. And I think that's probably an example of how everybody looks at it. Not to stay within the COVID-19 discussion, but it's not all just about technology. And you see that at the end of the day, it's all about the people. Mm-hmm. And I've seen that some of our customers, they started brand new relationships, partnerships with other companies that under normal circumstances probably never would have happened. One of our clients, a supermarket chain, clearly was selling a lot less because people were no longer coming to the supermarkets. They signed an agreement with a taxi type company in order to do a quick home delivery and still being able, very customer centric. You see new partnerships form in order to serve those clients. Yeah, you need to underpin that with technology, that you can see. So the opportunity in the customer centricity is driving. Technology is there to support it, and this is where the two come together.
So it's not technology driven, probably?
No, it's not just technology. It's really what can we do in order to make a difference towards the client. Of course, you want to grow your own business. Supermarket example, they need to continue to sell as well. So yeah, you're gonna have to find a new way in order to serve your market. And good to see.
Yeah, maybe if I could comment on a slightly different aspect of what is being discussed here. Is it technology or people are driving it? But what is the motivation for the change, right? Why do people change? And kind of, I ask this question myself a lot because we as a company, we help people changing. And what is this motive is a kind of a starting point. And Julia started saying that she's very optimistic about the situation and that the COVID is actually imposing this change. And indeed, it is putting people to start doing things in a different way, right? Kind of, my kids, they switched from a physical school to the online schooling overnight, right? But this motivation is sort of enforced by external factors, kind of environment. I have to change. Yeah, I cannot travel. I have to go through a online meeting. There's no other choice. But that's sort of kind of the first motivation. The other motivation is that I see often with companies we work with is a kind of a cost motivation. I want to change or I need to change because my cost structure has to change. Right? We are in an economy where telco, for how many years I remember, it was always going down the prices per unit, right? Maybe except for the certain products, but typically it's always been cheaper. So we need to also adapt the cost structure. And our owners tell us, yeah, you have to cut the costs. And some of the largest companies are probably predominantly changing for that reason because they want to save money. But I think these two motives are something which we all live with, but I would like more to see the other two being customers, right? I want to change the customer experience. I don't want customers to wait 3 weeks for the offer. I don't want customers to wait 6 weeks for the service delivery. I want to provide more transparency. I want to build a better relationship with customer. So ultimately, I want to transform the customer experience, and this is the motive for the change. But the final one, and this is something where you kind of pointed out, changing maybe also the dynamics in the ecosystem, right? I don't want to be in the same type of business I was 20 years ago, right? Because this business is maybe not going to survive another 20 years. I need to reposition. I need to work with other partners. I need to find my way in the ecosystem, or maybe even possibly I want to create certain ecosystem. So that part is always very interesting to me. Exactly what is the motivation for change and how to inspire people more and how to tell them more and how to make sure that they actually switch on and drive this change. And let me just finish with a final remark. We've done a study recently with a partner about the digital transformation, asking carriers, so the right audience, how do they rate themselves in their transformation journey? Are they very good or very bad? It was around, I think, 43% of people who still rated themselves very, very low, like 1 or 2 on the digital transformation. That means they either are not doing anything or they are doing very little. And again, I'm back to those motives. Why? Why are they not driving more change? I don't know, but maybe someone knows, and I would be willing to listen to the answers. That's interesting to me.
So even in this industry, we are rating ourselves very low.
Indeed, and even in those circumstances where we are sort of not talking about the changing the economics and the environment and the business models, but we are kind of even starting with we have to change, and yet we are doing very little to change. How to accelerate this change, and maybe the times we are going through, the COVID situation, is actually the accelerator, because people have to change. They will maybe get used to change. Maybe they will be more open to change, right? And maybe that will help us in this industry, in this economy, to see more change happening, and ultimately going really to carving out new business models in this or creating new ecosystems.
Julia, when we talked, you told me that you're using chatbots. Is that one of the answers? Does it accelerate communication? Is that where it starts? You're just muted, I think. Yeah.
The famous words of 2020. Can't hear you, can't see you.
You're just...
Sorry, I had to unmute. So, well, as already mentioned, I mean, there's been a real boom in messaging and chat applications, and many people already prefer to use chat instead of email or talking on the phone. And if we're discussing about the reason, I think one of the reasons is that it is a natural form of communication, and it works seamlessly on your mobile platform. So so I think that there are currently two main developments. One is feature-rich communication with emoticons, videos, carousels, and buttons, and on the other side, automation across channels, because all our customers already expect like 24/7 services across their preferred channels, but companies still rely on telephone and email. And I mean, there are also channel-specific technical limitations. If you are working as an SMS provider, you have problems to support pictures or buttons, and the WhatsApp business API, for example, doesn't provide carousels. And apart from that, the API is not public, so the registration process can be quite complex, which makes cloud communication platforms such as Twilio a great choice. So, and another interesting new channel for telcos to look at might be Google Messages with RCS support. So. So I would just like to confirm that aggregators really need to become part of that digital messaging ecosystem supported by latest technologies like chatbots if they want to stay competitive. So that's just my opinion.
Thomas, you probably...
I think I'm in violent agreement with Julia. Just sorry, go ahead, please. Okay, I think the important piece here is to have the right message over the right channel at the right time. So I think Julia was introducing the multi-channel or omni-channel communications, which is extremely important here. Of course, if you look at certain situations where you suddenly have a peak in requests, of course, it should be easy to really channelize requests and help people to get an answer, because I think nothing is more unnerving than waiting maybe on hold in a call center or other things. So I think if you have AI bots which help start keeping the people busy, understanding the problem, whether it can be solved automatically or whether at a certain point in time after collecting some pieces of information that you will be routed to someone who really can help you right away. Of course, this is definitely increasing the service quality and of course customer satisfaction massively. The other thing is, of course, technology just shouldn't be used for the sake of technology. I think a big challenge for most of the companies who want to approach digitalization is to A, understand the chances and the opportunities, and B, to have the people who help them implement it. Of course, best thing is if you have a developer first approach on this. So if you have the people inside the company who understand how to do the things, how to use APIs, how to make this work, and how to build the prototypes in order to understand whether this is the right way. The other thing is, of course, there's a gazillion of different functions which you have in there, which might confuse the people. Important piece is to understand what's your challenge and then go into this challenge and solve it, and not try to do everything at once. I think that's certainly a very important piece. The other thing is, if you look at the different media, I think developers are desperately seeked for on the market. So I think this is certainly a very important thing, that we start fostering people taking down this path in order to learn this, because if you can build your own things, you have your destiny in your own hands. I think there's a couple of things which we need to take into consideration here. But long story, of course, automation can help on a lot of things to channelize communications and to enable omnichannel communications here. Back to you, Birgit.
Yeah, what we've seen over the last 6 months is an increase in the adoption of digital, but it was primarily based around getting a hold of your own internal communication, your communication with your customers, and being able to deal with a distributed work environment, because everybody had to work from home. I think what you now see happening is now that it's proven it works and we're all there. If you really want to go disruptive and innovate and start using digital as a transformation in order to create maybe a new ecosystem, the first thing that you need to think about is your process and people. If you want to make a change like that, you can't just throw technology at it. You first need to think about how is that process. That can be even a chat box, right? Having a chat box out there, if there's nobody there behind it to do so, then it's going to fail by default. The other thing that we're seeing is, which is a continuous challenge, is data quality. If you want to go into automation, and especially all the way towards artificial intelligence, if you don't have a good grip on your data quality, it's simply not going to work. And if I look at some of the automation projects that we have with some of our larger clients, that is probably the biggest struggle. It's not the API itself or any kind of automated interface. It's the data, clearly not on our side, but primarily on the other side, which is, because of legacy, it has evolved over time. There are multiple systems involved. So how do they communicate with each other, and getting a grip on that and clean that up? That's probably where the majority of the effort goes, cleaning up the data to get it right before you can really start to embrace the digitalization and the automation that you can benefit from. Whether the reason to do so might be cost reduction, or you might want to try a new working method, or a new service, or enhance your customer engagement in general. And so as Experio, we're 16 years old now, and we've gone through several changes system-wise, people or process. But this is something that gets continuous attention. We're looking at the data, we're cleaning it up before we can move on to the next project to really get the benefits from that investment.
So does it change the business models of your company as well? Are you getting more involved in the processes at your customers, or are you just saying, okay, get your data cleaned up and then come back? Or
No. You really become a part of the process. And I think this is where the biggest change is. It's no longer just I do something, hand it over, and somebody else does something else with it. If you really want to benefit, you really have to look at the end-to-end process, not just yours, but also of your customer. How do I fit in with whatever they do? And you become a part of their, might be a production street, or might be part of their customer engagement. So the word partner starts to become very popular again, but I think this time it's really true. If you look at the role that you start to play, it's no longer just a supplier. You're becoming part of their solution.
okay.
Yeah, absolutely.
So is there more cooperation, or is it more just competition, or does it change? Is there more trust between partners working together on a project?
I think I've been in a wholesale carrier industry in the past 20-something years, and it was always about partnering. We compete sometimes, we sometimes partner, but I think the changes that we are seeing today are actually elevating this need for partnership even further. And be it the situation with COVID or even a technology, if we look on things like SD-WAN and the changes that are driven on the technology side, but also the customer expectations, right? And the fact that customers today, they want everything here and now, on demand, everywhere, right? Regardless if we're talking about our home country or maybe country of a very distant continent. And that's all, to me, means more collaboration, more partnerships are needed. And that's why I'm talking about those ecosystems, right? And kind of reinventing the ecosystems, finding your position in this ecosystem, because I think that simply to serve the customers and meet those expectations, we cannot work as a silos networks. Maybe there was a dream, I will build my fiber everywhere and I will have everything on net, 100% margin, life will be beautiful. But that is not the case, right? The customers are driving this, technology is driving it. I think more partnerships is important. And I would say that I agree with Sander a lot on there is no automation without the data quality, right? So if we are talking about the partnerships, and we are of course talking about the automation in this partnership ecosystem, but there are multiple levels of it. The APIs is one thing, and the standardization of the APIs is one thing, but the data quality is another thing. It's a data quality among partners, but also data quality within my own internal network. And do I control data? Do I have a visibility? Do I understand my processes, my margins, my paybacks? Are my systems connected? You know, the big issue of the telcos with disjoint BSS and OSS systems, the business systems are not talking to network systems, right? And the only interface is human people. That is not helping us with automation much and with data quality. So these are the things that we believe are very, very important, and this is what we are trying to help the carriers to change in order to facilitate this automation with more partnership type of mode.
So Julia, do you have an advice in cleaning up these data and what to do? Where are the risks? Where are the opportunities to do that?
Well, first of all, I would like to add a comment to what Thomas said before about technology, that no one uses tech for the sake of tech, or at least most people don't. We don't buy a console because we like the device. We buy it because we want to play games. So each device or application is the means to an end to resolve a specific problem or need. So I really think you need to define your problem first, and then you can think about solutions. And I think talking about technologies is, it's just to find out which is the right thing to use to solve your problem. So at Onfor, we are kind of technologically independent. Of course, we try to use our own chatbot platform when possible, but if one of our customers is using IBM Watson, for example, we can integrate it without problems, or if they're using Microsoft Cognitive. So that's really a key of working in the tech area, that you stay flexible and you are able to fit into this digital ecosystem and open to all sides and to customer requirements.
Thomas, what is your opinion to that? What are you doing with legacy data, and where do you start your project, or when do you have to just give it back to the customer? How does it work?
So two things. Of course, we are mainly using the data when it comes to feeding, for instance, bots. So of course, we are agnostic on these technologies. Of course, the better the platform underneath is, of course, the more benefits for the customers. We have our own element in there, but of course, we can deal with dialog flow. So we can anything which we can just integrate via software and API calls. The other thing, of course, is if I come into a customer conversation, and of course, if they want to look at the APIs and the whole platform, I always push back on the things, because people need to know what kind of problem they are tackling and what they want to achieve. And then, of course, and I think as Julia mentioned, that we can talk about solutions and creating the whole customer experience in this. Of course, people need to sit down, and of course, this is something you cannot let someone else do. Of course, if you run a business, you need to know how you want to run the business and how you want to be successful. So I think you have to understand what is the right thing to do. Of course, you have to take new ways of communications or routes to market into consideration. But of course, you first need to, or as a customer or as a prospect, isolate the things which you want to solve. And then, of course, you can start talking about the tech solution. So usually, as we are not a strategic consultancy or anything else, we push back. And of course, we force the people to think about what they're trying to achieve. And then we can talk about how to map this. It's tough, but of course, you have to do it, because otherwise it will be an endless discussion.
Mm-hmm. So that was kind of part of the question. Are we all in part strategic consultants, more or less?
Well, you can't consult about somebody else's business, right? But as Experio, what we have tried to do is, because we're becoming more and more customer centric, our go-to-market diversified as well. It's not only carrier to carrier anymore. But regardless of the type of customer, you want to make sure that their engagement with us is going to be as enjoyable as we can get it for them. If you start to map out that customer journey, you will see across the different touch points that you want to make sure that that particular part of the journey is as good as you can get it. You look at the process and the people and what it is that you want to do at that touch point. And what you typically see is that there are multiple departments involved in order to create that experience. What we have done is we put that we call a portfolio board together, which is a team of people that out of different business units, and in that you find our customer engagement, in that you find commercial, in that you find our operational department together with our IT department. They now start to work out what the ideal customer engagement, customer process should be. And that then drives how we want to operate as an organization. So there's a lot of change in there, change in process, and with that, change in the way that people need to behave. But at the top line, it is about the customer experience.
So all the processes in your company changed to that?
Continuously. Yeah, if you want to continuously drive innovation, you're going to have to become agile as a company as well. Yeah, so it's if you stand still, you're effectively walking backwards. So you're going to have to move forward in order. The world is changing so quickly, and again, if you look at this year, it's been incredible what has been done in terms of digital innovation, especially the acceptance of it. And I think we're only further going to accelerate. It's going to be a whole new normal. Look at today, half of the panel virtual, half here physical. So and then that's going to be the new normality. So how do you want to embrace that? And then as an organization, you're going to have to look at the way that you operate. And I think digitalization, automation is really, really going to help. But again, you can't do it unless you know what the process is going to be and how the people need to work at that.
So is it part of your advice to customers, just showing your experience, how you build up these departments and interactions, and are you showing this to customer? Look at our model. Probably this is
practice what you preach, right? So absolutely, yes. It definitely helps in the conversation, and we're lucky enough that we can serve a very wide variety of customers across many different industries, and everybody's got other business problems to solve. But that's exactly it. It's the business that's driving, it's the business problems that need to be solved, all mapped towards their customers and their customer experience. And what we can do is maybe relate it back to what we do for our customers. But yeah, it does resonate. It does.
So the question was if we are all strategic advisors. In a way, probably not. we still think that, for example, we predominantly see our company as an IT and software company. But indeed, there is I think that even the role of partners like ourselves is changing. We never start with talking to IT. We really need to understand business. Why is business believing in change? What is the change about? That is absolutely fundamental for us to be able to deliver the IT project, right? Because the driver is really on the business side. Furthermore, I would even extend it to the verticalization. We as a company, we decided to be very specialized and work for telcos, right? There are many people who deliver work for different industries and they specialize in some IT skills. Of course, we have hopefully a lot and very good IT skills inside, but yet what we think is unique and is really the value that the customer is looking for is a combination of IT skills with the industry insight, right? So our ability to really design, build systems, but also to bring and discuss some best practices of how the system could address certain issues and deliver the value, not only strictly on the IT development side, but more of how do we make it into actionable working tool. So in a way, yes, we are kind of moving into trying to understand the business of the customer in order to provide our services best.
Julia, would you like to comment on that? Strategic advice or not?
Well, I mean, every industry has, its own typical problems, and every company has different issues. So, I mean, from my background at developing chatbot solutions, you can see that telcos, of course, have a lot of benefit if they try to answer support queries via chatbots, because this can save them a lot of money. But I mean, there are so many different use cases. You can solve technical issues. In telco, I think it's also very interesting to proactively offer plan upgrades or improve fraud prevention. But there are also these types of branding and marketing activities that help you boost sales and cross-selling that can actually be implemented. And I think with all the opportunities we have now of in-app bookings and payments, it's really just, I think one of the biggest tasks is to find out what could be, the specific problem in this industry for this customer, to find out how can you solve it with artificial intelligence, or in that case, NLP, and how can you match questions and answers coming from customers. And I think it's really just important to know this problem, to know the industry. That's why consultants for each industry are very important. For example, when we were building a chatbot for a big German automotive brand that I'm not allowed to disclose, we were really thinking what solution could help them, and we decided that increasing the numbers of test drives could help a lot, because that's already at the final step of the customer journey, and it helps much more to build a chatbot in that situation than in the beginning of a journey when the customer is still looking in Google for specific car models. So there's really a big part of thinking about the problem strategically, solve it, and after that you can decide which one is the best technology you should use, or the best solution, and based on that's how I'm usually working.
Okay, so what would your advice be for companies in just this transformation, starting this process? Where to start? Starting with the data, starting with the cleanup, starting with the processes, starting with whatever? Is there a starting point, or isn't? Are we just in the middle of some confusion. So what is the advice
You
for
want to take that one?
companies that are probably not so
I-
advanced technical?
Yeah, sure. I mean, I think, and I strongly believe in this world that is much more interconnected. So I believe in the partnerships, and I would say start with choosing the right partner. If you don't know where to start, you need to have some advice from someone who maybe has done it many times for a similar situations, right? And I wouldn't say that there is always a single answer. No, there is not. It always depends, and we are doing the projects all over the place, from greenfield, from the new investments. We start from scratch. We don't even know what the processes are, but we want to have systems and services up and running in 8 months. It's perfectly doable, but probably not that often. It's more the situation where someone is sitting with the legacy systems, data issues, problems with processes. So that requires really some sort of sitting down, analyzing the situation, trying to identify the pain points, trying to see where we can actually convert those pain points into competitive advantage. So if you have not done this job yourself, look for a partner who has done it, or a similar people like yourself for your industry, and can help you to start this journey.
Mm-hmm.
First step would be best practice sharing, out of my view. So I think if you do not have an idea, of course, the thing is there's a lot of solutions and things on the market that might be interesting for the specific company. I think we have over 170,000 customers, so there's a lot of references documented. The only thing which is important, of course, if you want to have as a company, want to have a competitive advantage, you need to have your own idea on that. So Me Too may work sometimes, but of course, depends on your size and the budget you have. What we have found out during the study is that a lot of these old-fashioned barriers for digitalization have been pushed into the background. So I think what was the reason in the past not to do anything was the thought of the lack of a clear strategy, getting maybe executive approval because maybe you had other problems. The other thing, of course, is always the normal thing, having a lack of time. And the other thing is, of course, there's certainly some reluctance to replace legacy software because it works, it has been paid, nobody wants to do the porting efforts. But I think these things have been put aside because the companies wanted to survive, so they had to do something. And of course, if there's a lack of ideas, it's certainly good to see, okay, who's leading in this market? Can I learn something from them? Can I map this to my own model? Because of course, in some cases, there are a lot of companies who are extremely successful at this point in time, who were digital natives, so they've been built from the ground up to be digital. The other question is, if you look at larger enterprises, they always have some kind of innovation hub who try out technologies first. And I think this has been proven to be successful in a couple of cases. And of course, this certainly is a good advice for companies who want to move towards this, maybe try it with a smaller entity, learn with it, and then roll it out in a broader area. And the important piece, of course, as well, is the mindset of the people. They need to accept changes, and they need to be willing to apply this in their daily life. And I think that might be a different discussion.
Probably, yeah. Yeah. Julia, your advice?
Well, I actually just have a fun story to add about a big German financial institution, and I know that they're still working with technologies from the 80s, talking about legacy problems, and everyone knows it's already, old technology, you can't use it, and no one wants it, but no one is brave enough to shut down this technology because no one wants to be responsible of losses that have been built during the last 30 years. So this is just interesting to see. But actually, Thomas was mentioning how we are usually working. It's really about trying to test new things, be open. Started with a small unit, like a small innovation lab or something like that. Test it, be brave enough to fail. It's no problem to fail, but fail fast and then improve the whole process. So that's the only thing I can recommend.
Okay.
And it's not, it's not a shaming if you fail. It's completely fine, because only people that don't try new things are not failing. So go for it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think the technology is there, the timing is there, to really start to thrive and not survive in this environment. But don't tackle everything at once. Make smaller projects so that you can indeed, like Julia says, test it, trial it. And what Thomas said, the biggest problem is actually the people change management. If the part of the process, of the whole process that you want to change is too large, changing everything at one go is too difficult.
So we are starting the discussion on change management right now.
But we probably can, but keep it small, keep it focused, and once you have success, also internally and externally, that's a good news story, and then you will see that the whole acceptance will grow as well.
Okay. So thank you all for giving your experience, your advice to everybody. Are there questions, Laura?
We have from our online audience, there's no questions.
Right, could you just, Thomas, could you say we can get this report that Twilio has published recently?
Can you please repeat the question, because the audio quality is not very good?
Oh, sorry, yeah. Did I understand correctly? You said there's a report that Twilio posted recently that we can have access to.
Exactly. So I think very good question. So we have a COVID-19 digital engagement report, and it can be reached via our website. I think I will provide the links to the team so that it can be shared. Otherwise, drop me a note.
Okay, so thank you everybody, and I just one more. Okay, so there it is.
Can you see it, or shall we read it for you, Birgit?
Just a second. Sandra, Arthur, can you advise how carriers should adjust their IT strategies to be more adaptable and unpredictable situation like lockdown?
Well, think about the customer experience and the customer journey, because that will drive your change. And during the lockdown, we're all working from home. I think for most companies, it's been a smashing success. We saw in the early starts, people were running out of practical things like the internet is very popular now. In order to communicate, people had not enough bandwidth, so you had to solve that one. People are working from home, so consumer broadband is not always fit for purpose for your business application. So that realization is there now as well. As a telco, think about that. So what is the new environment that our customers are looking for? It's not going to be like what we've seen over the last 10, 20 years. I think the whole corporate environment is changing. As a study, one of our clients in the US is looking at, can we reduce our workspace and actually provide a home workspace for most of our workers, actually all of their workers. That's an immense change, and that's going to require a whole new infrastructure. How do you want to support that? If you go to the employee home, what are you going to do about data? Here in Europe, we have got such a thing called GDPR. So am I allowed to monitor what my employee is doing at home? Well, probably not. So there's a lot of that stuff that's popping up now, which is new, which we have to think about. And for that, you need people, you need resources to do that. Telco to telco, we love to ask a lot of questions. It's very transactionally oriented. I think their automation can really make a change. So the advice is to try to automate that one. Get things like your cost to quality, cost to service low as you can get it, in order to enable you as an organization to really start adding that value and start working towards those partnerships that we talked about earlier.
Yeah, so I'm not sure if I will bring something totally new, but talking about the infrastructure, well, definitely, I think everyone knows that cloud solutions really give us this flexibility, right? Scaling up, working remotely, sharing the workload that wouldn't be possible with all those cloud solutions that we have nowadays. So in a way, we've been lucky, right? If the COVID happened 10 years ago, I don't know how we would survive really with that, even with the laptop at home, with all the VPNs connections that would never work. So definitely cloud came at a good moment in time to help us, and let's try to make sure that all the processes are actually adapted to this cloud infrastructure and remote connectivity. Like Sandra, you mentioned GDPR. Absolutely, this is one of the practical things that we have to work with. But the other thing is, I would say it's about the mindset, right? About the change. People are afraid of change, and we kind of have to switch to thinking that the change is there. It will be there. It will change next year, something different, probably something that we are not predicting today. And kind of, switching from seeing a change as a threat to thinking that change is good. It's here to stay, and we just have to use it to our advantage. So I think it's a lot about the mindset, how we come to situations like that.
I think that was just things last word. So just keep it like this. Any more questions?
Any more questions from the audience? Okay, so then we can finish.
Okay. Thank you very much, Thomas. Thank you, Julia. Thank you for joining.
Thank you very much. Bye-bye.
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 So dear all, we are at the end of this panel. Thank you very much, Birgit, for doing an amazing job moderating this. Thank you, Thomas, Julia, Sanders, and Arthur for participating as a panelist. And thank you, our audience. I will see you next panel at 2:30.